We're here.
I wish I could give you this feeling. I wish I could give you this feeling. On the corner.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Corner Podcast. Kel Dansby here with the old man Andreas and Kel, coming to you from Blue Wire Studios in the Win. If you guys haven't checked out our YouTube, check that out. You get the full experience now. Get to see us on set. Get to see the Titantron behind us. Everything running smoothly here. We love it. You guys get the full experience now. So, Corner Podcast on YouTube. All of the videos going up for every show, every week. That is going to be really fun. Also, still listen to podcasts. Listen to us on your leisure, riding around, do a little bit of everything. Shout out to everyone who showed support and loved last week's episode. Honestly, didn't know how it was going to be received. Logan's incredible. Talking about old man Dre stories from back in college, and then our entire discussion.
It's funny because we didn't really even get into all that. There was so much I was like, wow, we're gonna miss a lot of this, which I was like, cool.
Someone was like, we need a Logan part 2. I was like, listen, whenever he's in town. Shout out to Reverse Rat Pack member Razor Ramon. Ramon got to come out here and really tell the story.
Yeah, I mean,
because y'all were running around parties. He posted the picture from a pajama party where you decided not to wear pajamas.
I didn't decide. I was broke. Look, so
you don't got basketball shorts? You wore jeans.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to wear basketball. So anyway, so Logan went to Morehouse with me, and I met him at Morehouse. He kind of told the story we didn't talk to each other our freshman year on the first floor because we were like, who is this big waterhead motherfucker? That's how we were, and then we clicked. Ramon I knew from high school out here. He went to Green Valley in Vegas. I went to Valley. And he had hit me when he got accepted to Clark. And I was like, I got accepted to Morehouse. So he's the only person that I knew.
Atlanta.
When I got down there, he was the only person that I knew. So, Ramon has a different set of stories because he went to Clark, the twins that went to Clark, that our whole crew that you guys saw the pictures of, not you listeners. You saw none of this. But, we went to, pajama parties. We went to Ramon has stories there's a record store called Audrey's that we used to get all our music from 3 days before it came out. So we had In My Lifetime, Quemini, all those albums we would have 3 days before they dropped. So he has the stories about us partying, being super broke. I don't know how we managed to go to all these clubs and be so broke.
I can tell you were broke. You were the skinniest man on earth in that photo.
Yeah, man, I was manorexic.
Boy, I could see through you.
Yeah, I was manorexic. I had the side profile, so you couldn't really see how skinny I was.
Yeah,
and then the boy, Johnny and Zuri, the twins, and Ramon and Ravon, they used to always go to the gym, right? Because they had a little bit of bread. I couldn't afford to go to the gym. Was called Run and Shoot in Atlanta. So you play ball and you go work out. Yeah. I couldn't go. So when it was pajama, we knew the pajama party was coming. They're in the gym every day, pumping iron. Me, I'm skinny, trying to eat malnutrition, top ramen. You ain't gonna get any bigger off of top ramen. So we had a lot of struggles, man. But Ramon's got just a whole different set of stories, trying to pick up on Foxy Brown after a concert. It was weird. It was a Foxy Brown concert, and Foxy walked out, and we were just let's holla at her. We just did really dumb stuff, but they both have two perspectives of me. In college. So Logan, fortunately or unfortunately, didn't really get knee deep into it. There was a few stories. Ramon has a whole different set of stories. He's in Texas, so it'll happen.
But I'm glad everyone liked it. We've had a couple of suggestions to do more shows like that, so I guess we will. I decided to name it differently, so you guys will know when those shows come up once in a blue moon. But it'll start off with talking on a corner instead of wrestling on a corner or fighting on a corner. So you can tell, dope, this isn't going to have combat sports. They're just going to go off and talk and have a really good conversation, which that was. So, man, I'm excited and glad everyone liked that. I thought it was really well done. So, again, shout out to Logan. Shout out to everyone here. Shout out to producer Cole Bebe for letting me just blow through the sign every time when he's just yo, we got to out. I'm like, nah, we're going to keep going. So, I mean, at this point, Cole either really likes me or hates me because he's always giving me a timed out. And I'm just giving him the cut signal. And I know he's just in there. Oh, my God, during the corner rumble, when he's next guest is on. I'm just no, 2 more minutes. Him and Antoine just grilling me from the other side of the glass. So That was a funny experience. So yeah, they probably both hate me, but it makes for great podcasting. On today's show, lo and behold, it was a topic we were supposed to touch on last week or in last episode, but glad we saved it for today because you had quite an interesting Monday on social media.
Did I?
You did.
What happened? I don't remember.
You put out a tweet about the Joe Rogan situation.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember.
It had your mentions
Yeah.
a little all over the place.
Yeah. It was a weird day because I tweeted about two things that day. I tweeted about Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yep.
And I tweeted about Big E.
Yeah.
In that situation, because the story came out that backstage was unhappy. And people were like, that's not true. And I was like, okay. Just full disclosure. When I tweet something, trust me, I know something. I'm not speculating.
Yeah.
There's something that I know, and it may not be through. I mean, obviously, if you guys know that I'm friends with Big E, you think that I get a lot of my stuff through Big E. No, trust me. I have people, when that story came out, I was like, all right, it's out. Because it was true. But that was one thing. But the whole Joe Rogan thing, yeah, I was perturbed by it. And I'm going to ask you a question in a second. But
Yeah.
the thing that frustrated me more about the Joe Rogan situation wasn't the N-word usage in all the shows. It was, but it was the comparing black people to apes, the Planet of the Apes comment. And that's what I was like, that's offensive. And there's really no wiggle room for that. There was no context because we heard the quote in context.
Yeah.
And we heard how he discussed it, and I was like, yeah, that's wrong. Flat out wrong. You can try to contextually say the N-word was taken out of context. He was trying to use it for this, even though I don't think you need to use it on 110 shows. But, that's neither here nor there. But the Planet of the Apes thing, I was just like, yo, that's not cool. Now, there were people that were like, well, Joe's not racist. And I was like, all right, cool. Joe's not racist. And I made it very clear. My grandmother, old Italian, full-blooded Italian white woman, she loved me. She didn't want me to date black women. She didn't necessarily like black people. Now, I can say she was a racist to me, but that perspective has a hint of racism in it.
Yeah.
She told me, you're not going to date big-nosed black women. You shouldn't. They have loud mouths. That's what my grandmother told me, right? And it's crazy, but I loved her. She loved me, but I'm not going to be a fool and say, oh, no, she's not racist at all. I knew that she didn't like my friends. She just had to get used to it, right? She didn't like they didn't want me to go to HBCU. They just had to deal with it. So when I said that, I was like, stop defending Joe Rogan just because he wasn't racist to you in your face doesn't mean he didn't say something that was racist. Does that mean he hates black people? No, not necessarily, but it means he has a perspective of black people. And whether he thought it was funny or not, it just wasn't cool.
That's the key. Like, a lot is hidden behind this this veil of comedy, right? Because he is a comedian. So they're just like, yo, that was just a joke.
Yeah, it's nothing.
I'm like, he's not on stage, right? No. Like, he's not doing an act, which, I mean, listen, we all seen comedy shows that say wild shit. Okay, like, that's part of a set. If there was like a monkey joke or whatever, I watched Lisa Lampanelli stand-up specials. Like, I get comedy for the sake of comedy, right? When you're on stage. This podcast isn't a comedy yet.
No, not at all.
This is sitting with your friends and guests, talking openly, and often forgetting that you are necessarily not being recorded, but that you're in a corporate environment. Because especially back then, he didn't know anything about, like, yo, I'm going to be on Spotify.
No.
He didn't know, like, I'm going to be a corporate machine and the biggest podcaster on earth. I'm sitting down talking to my friends every week, like, about aliens and, like, weed and all this stuff and bringing in guests to talk about that, but also saying wildly problematic shit.
Yeah, it's in a public sphere, right? Like, you're saying it in a public sphere where you're left to be scrutinized. Now, here's the question I want to ask you before I give my take on this. What do you think should happen to Joe Rogan?
Listen, man, I don't watch anyway. So, like, what is it for me? I think, I don't think his apology was, like, the greatest, but I can't tell people how to apologize either, right? But I would assume, like, sincere apology. I think Spotify has to come out and be like, yo, this isn't what we align with, and this is no longer what the show is. I don't think he's going to lose his show. I don't think he should, per se, if he has an audience and a voice. I mean, people follow worse shows than Joe Rogan. I'll tell you that much. And worse people. I don't know him, but I'm sure there's worse people out there, right? Like, and people follow them constantly in the shit they say. So I get it. I don't want to see anything like that on the show from here on out. How about that? Show me with your actions that you understand that your show in 2012 is a lot different than your show in 2022. Because a lot of us said dumb shit in 2012. 2012. And we weren't on the mic. I get it. They scrubbed it. You apologize. We can't have another mix-up. That ain't funny. You can't do that anymore. And that's what I hope happens to Joe Rogan. If you lose followers and listeners because they tune in for that, and that's why so be it. Your show can't be that anymore. And they're going to be like, oh, my God, you're censored. Cancel. Who cares? You can't do that anymore. Talk about some other shit. Aliens aren't going to kill you for bad-mouthing them. Talk about aliens again.
That is actually the correct answer that I was looking for. There have been a lot of people who was like, well, what do you want to happen? The first question that happened a lot on social media was like, why now? Why are you addressing this now? And I was like, why? Because I hadn't seen this until now. Yeah. And now that I've seen it, I'm going to address it. And I'm going to say it's wrong. Now, do I want Joe's show to be canceled? No. Here's why. If you want to radicalize a base of people to really upset them, cancel Joe Rogan's podcast. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because there is a freedom of speech, and I have the freedom to not like what Joe has to say. And with my freedom, I can say I'm not listening, or you can let other people know, like, this is what this show is about. Do not listen to this show.
Yep.
The power lies into the listener. Canceling the podcast is not the answer. No. You know, it happened years ago. It flew under the radar for a lot of people. It's been brought to light. Joe needs to face the music. At the very worst, he could be suspended for like a couple of weeks or something like that. At the absolute worst. But aside from that, it is a learning lesson for Joe Rogan. Whether he still believes it or not, it's not up to me anymore.
Yeah.
It's the fact that it's been brought to light. You address this, you deal with the blowback, and then you move forward and don't do it again. Now, if you do it again,
now we have an discussions. Yeah.
Because, like, he talks about, like, eugenics. Like, people were sending me clips I had never seen because I don't watch the show. Yep. I see clips on social media, and I was like, I don't particularly care for what he has to say, right? Like, the whole COVID thing, I was like, I just disagree with all that misinformation. Then it was, like, the eugenics thing where, like, black people have different brains that are predetermined to violence. And I was like, whoa, wait, slow down. Like, slow down. You've gone too far, right? And I was like, this is all wrong. But let's make sure that these things don't happen again. That's it. I don't want to see Joe Rogan get canceled. That's all that would do is upset a base of listeners, which he has a lot of, and radicalize them in a similar fashion that if you impeach Trump, for instance, and you radicalize that, like, you don't need to do that. Don't upset them. It's not like Joe's going to change his tune, and his listeners aren't going to change their tune either. If you want to change perspectives, you can't silence somebody. You just have to address it. That's it. But I was just so blown up because people were like, it's a political hit. And I was like, what's so political about this? I was like, he was wrong, and it was racist.
Ain't nothing political about it.
Yeah, and there's no reason for him to say the N-word that many times. There's none.
Like, not at all.
At a certain point, you just got to go, hey, man, like, no. And that's why I have refrained from using that word in public. Like, I used to use it all the time as a teenager. I was growing up. And then one day I was just like, I'm just going to stop using it. And why? Because if I stop using it, then you won't feel comfortable using it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and so if you use it in the presence of me, now we got a problem because I don't use it. I'm not giving you a license to use that word. And for Joe, to use it in context, just say the N. Why can't you just say the N word? Why is that so difficult?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like
you have to say it.
He went full Harry Potter, where he has to say the word Voldemort instead of "he who must not be named." Like,
it's like chill out.
I don't know. Like it gives the same purpose. Like overall, again, you have to be smarter than that. Even if, for any reason, you just like using the word, right? Like, if you and your group of comedian friends thinks that shit's funny. Because I can see Dave Chappelle, like, laughing. Like,
of course.
Yeah, like, I get it. Like, it could be funny between y'all. The biggest thing there is, like, you're a grown-ass man. You've been a grown man for a long time. You're a grown man when you started this podcast. you should have some common sense
Right.
to just be like, maybe I shouldn't say this in a public platform. Because there's a lot of stuff like racial slurs aside. Like, I don't say racial slurs anywhere necessarily. But racial slurs aside, there's a lot of stuff I know I can and cannot say on this microphone.
Right.
I know in some platforms, even though we can curse on our show, I know if I have a radio hit for ESPN radio or something else and I'm talking, I cannot curse. And I change
Right.
what I can and cannot say. It's cool. I'm smart enough. Like, I know how to do this. I know when I can curse, when I cannot curse. I know when I'm playing video games at home and I'm playing MLB The Show and I give up a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 8th after I pitch like a no-hitter through the first 8 innings. Y'all gonna hear some language that's very colorful.
Right.
So it's one of those things, like, I know when and where I can act how I want to act. And he seemed to have none of that. Like, it was just, my man, you're on air.
Right.
This isn't acceptable on air. If you want to do this with your friends and yeah, people have been finding clips throughout his show, like not even just the N-word. He's been saying like crazy slurs for like Asians and Jewish people and Italians, and he thinks it's funny. I'm assuming like his audience must like it. I don't listen to the show. I don't know if that's like part of the gimmick. It's part of the shtick. I don't know. It's not for me. But again, the best thing he can do is not get canceled, the show not go away. The best thing he can do is change.
That's it.
And show he's changed. And maybe his audience is like, because they follow everything. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers. Follow everything he says. Maybe they're like, you know what? Joe stopped using that.
Yeah, learning lesson.
Maybe
right?
I should stop using that too.
Teachable moment.
Yeah, because he can teach his entire following by someone in this moment teaching him.
It's that simple.
Easy.
It's that simple. So the other thing I just want to briefly touch on, I'm not sure if you watch it yet, but the Bill Cosby documentary on Showtime.
Yo, I found out my grandma cut off the Showtime. It hurt my heart. So I gotta find this. It's by other methods of the internet, but I will.
Yeah, that we won't talk about here. But it's we have to figure out how to talk about Bill Cosby, and it's a spectacular documentary by W. Kamau Bell, and the way it's laid out is not as a hit piece, right? It is trying to contextualize who Bill Cosby was, what he meant to this community and to this culture, and then the heinous acts that he allegedly did, right? And what he went to jail for. Now, there's a funny part about it because my wife watches it through an attorney's eyes, and I'm watching through my eyes. And it's like, some people are like, well, do we just cancel the Bill Cosby show? And I was like, no, it exists. This is a point where you have to separate the art from the artist. Now, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to watch the Bill Cosby show.
Yeah.
It's going to be really difficult to look at Cliff Huxtable.
I've seen they have clips like where he said some problematic shit on the show.
Yeah, he talked about like his barbecue sauce being a special sauce and everybody gets all lovey-dovey when they take his barbecue sauce. It was weird because they talked about him being a gynecologist and his office was in his basement. And now when you parallel that to the accusations, you go, oh my God, is this y'all coincidence? No, because Bill Cosby had complete autonomy over the show.
I just saw Antoine's face, and Antoine was like, what?
Yeah, so it's like, because
who gets away with these?
Somebody asked Jamel Hill, they was like, well, what did he do? And Jamel was like, a pediatrician? And then Kamau Bell was like, no, he was a gynecologist. And you know where his office was? In his basement. And she was like, oh. And it's wild. So it's hard to watch it through that lens now, but you can't deny the impact that it had on the culture.
Yep.
Now, the tricky part about it is you had all these allegations and all these things that happened later, and, he went to jail, and he got out on a technicality. And I've listened to a lot of people say, well, he was innocent. That's why he got out. No, that's not why he got out. He got out because when he was questioned, when he was deposed in 2005, during the deposition, he was granted immunity. If he said he said these things about, drugging women and no consent, but he was granted immunity. And then another DA came in and was like, forget all that. You don't get immunity. You can't do that. So they used what Bill Cosby used in that deposition in that trial, and that was what they used to lock him up for 3 years. That is wrong. You cannot do that. Does that mean Bill Cosby was innocent? No. It was just like Mark Furman, planting evidence in the OJ case. You can't do that. Does it mean OJ's innocent? No. but you can't plant evidence. It's like planting drugs on us when you pull us over. We need to be like it has to be across the board. So when I saw it, I was watching people was like, Bill Cosby is innocent. I was like, that's not what that means, right? And then there was people saying, well, we cancel the Cosby Show, and I was like, I don't think that's the answer either. The answer is not to cancel that. Look, he went to jail for 3 years. Wrongfully went to jail based on evidence that shouldn't have been admissible in court. But he's too old to learn, right? The difference between him and Joe Rogan is Bill Cosby did this for like 50 years. Like when you watch this documentary, this man they said he had like a pit of models at the Cosby Show tapings. And they would bring him into his dressing room and he would mentor them with alcohol and Quaaludes. This man was a savage. He was a monster. He was a predator. And it's like,
I didn't know Quaaludes were a thing before Wolf of Wall Street, by the way.
yeah.
Like, I guess this is why they no longer exist?
Yes.
Because Cosby, like, bought all of them?
I mean, but, the other thing is, like, well, Bill had to learn from somebody. I don't think this was just his. There had to be somebody. Like, Hollywood's been doing this for a long time. Bill just had to be.
From Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do that in Philly.
It's like
it's just not a thing. You walk down the block and Quaaludes are present in Philadelphia.
I just suggest for everybody to watch this documentary because it straddles that line because how do we talk about Cosby? And it's how do you talk about Rogan? Because if you're a fan of Joe Rogan, if you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, like my brother-in-law liked Joe Rogan's podcast, and I was like, relax, because you need to watch some of these episodes. And I don't know if he's gone back and watched them since, but it's like, well, how do we have this conversation about Joe Rogan? Like, who is Joe Rogan? The UFC is like, what are y'all going to do about Joe Rogan? He's about to be on commentary for UFC 271.
Yeah.
In the midst of all of this, do you issue a statement? Some people are like, well, pull him from the broadcast. I don't think that's necessary. I think if you're the UFC, you say that we don't share those views, but the problem is they probably do. Like, the problem is that Dana White was probably like, I love what Joe Rogan said.
I mean, Dana White's stance is very clear, and he's very open about it. Like, he's freedom of speech of all kinds, so he's not going to hinder regardless of what the speech is. People can consider hate speech. To him, it's all a matter of opinion. He said this publicly.
Yeah, for now, until the wrong person that's, our complexion says something. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I mean, it's just for anything to change. And to be fair, I guess he lets people say whatever they want. Like, he let Tyron Woodley say whatever the hell he wanted. Like, you could argue if he pushes them, like, afterwards, right?
It's a whole nother story.
If he then promotes those people the same as he promotes other people who say different things, but he lets people say whatever they want. So, I mean, his stance is pretty clear. I'm not going to knock him either, but I never expected him to do anything.
No.
Like, it's not on his air, so that gives him, like, a level of, like, detachment from the situation. Like, yo, Joe said that over there. Right. Joe never says anything crazy here. So he has that. And I don't know what the UFC can do. I'm just always interested, like, watching the UFC. Like, me working at ESPN aside and all that good stuff. Like, I'm just interested in, like, the upper workings of it now, that it's not, like, a private company. Because, like, people above them, like, Dana's great, but Dana's now just an employee.
Yes.
Like, I don't hear from people above, like, it's a different thing. Like, people are like, what is Dana going to do? Like, I don't know if this is Dana's level anymore, to be honest. Like,
it's tricky.
There's people above Dana now. Like, what are they going to, Dana's just the face of this now.
Well, I mean, not only is he the face, I mean, UFC still handles their production, right?
No, yeah, hands down. They have the matchmaker's still in place. They're still the president.
Like, I mean, but the broadcast, nothing is altered with ESPN's influence. No. ESPN is basically just taking the rights of the UFC and putting it out there to the world. But that leads me to our next question, because it's like, well, if the UFC is not going to do anything, because, we're in the midst of Black History Month as this is happening, and the UFC just announced, we have some Black History initiatives. Like, all right, cool. I wonder what, if there's ESPN, I wonder what they think. Like, it goes up the ladder because you are a representative of where you're at, right? So I wonder if Rogan was concerned about how ESPN would deal with it. I wonder, like, or does it just go away?
Yeah, I feel like as long as you don't, like, double and triple down and apologize, you're fairly okay. Like, you got to really, like, Gina Carano the situation.
Yeah, like, you got to
like,
double and triple
down when they're like, yo, chill.
It's like, no,
like, to really lose the bag.
I got more to say. Like, that was my whole situation with Joe, because there's people still in my mentions today. It was like, well, what do you want Joe Rogan to do? And I was like, I'm like, he did it. Do I think it was a great apology? No. But that's it. That he addressed it.
Yep.
Whereas I've seen other people, going back to Bill Cosby, was like, I never did anything. Well, that opens Pandora's box, because evidence, more people coming forward, more. That's why this thing drags out for so long.
Yep.
If you addressed this earlier and said, yeah, I did it, I messed up, I know better now, maybe Bill Cosby can move on. Still, you're raping people.
Yeah.
So it's like
I think he really goes to jail at that point.
it's like,
He was in a, yeah. He was in a
it's
pickle.
tough. Legally, your attorney's like, well, don't say anything. But in Joe's case, I think he did what he had to do. He apologized. I don't have to necessarily accept it. I'm not listening to the show anyway.
Yeah.
So it's what's
Like-
done is done.
Like you say all the time, can you cancel something you didn't watch?
Yeah, I don't care. Like,
Like,
if I was an avid watcher and listener of Joe Rogan's podcast, yes, I'd be handling this different. But the first thing I say is, like, I'm divesting.
Yeah. Maybe I wouldn't. I'd stop watching.
That's it. I divest from what he's done until he changes his tune. That's it. But I it's funny when I watch people's like, he needs to be canceled. I'm just, you know how I feel about that stuff. I'm just like, I don't believe in the concept of cancel culture, because nothing really gets canceled.
No, his hardcore fans are not going to cancel him.
No,
So
just
what are you
hold
gonna
people accountable. That's it. You
Yeah.
do something wrong, hold them accountable. Make sure they apologize. If they don't apologize, apply pressure.
do?
Right?
I
That's
also
it.
don't think all black people in the room have to answer for Joe Rogan, personally.
Well, you know how that goes.
So, like, I'm not necessarily sure Jamel Hill had to go on her own podcast and explain why she's still with Spotify.
But that's the
and
hard
what she
part.
thinks about Joe Rogan. Like, I don't.
It's
Like,
weird.
You don't know Joe Rogan, Jamel Hill. Like, you don't got to say anything if you don't want to say anything.
But there's pressure when you're the only black person in the room to address the racist situation. It's like, nobody's asking Nas. Like, I've been listening to the Bridge podcast with him and Miss Info with Minya. And like, nobody's asking Nas to take his show off of Spotify. It's a Spotify exclusive. But because of what Jamel stands for, they say, well, people are going to say, if you don't say anything, you're complicit. And it gets complicated because it's trial by social media, which isn't a real trial. It's a bunch of morons with no legal background that are going to say, you're wrong, you're this, you're that. She said what she said. I'm fine with it. I don't care. She didn't have to, but she did. So let's move on. So hopefully people move on from this. I'm not hanging on to this too long. But if Joe comes out and says something else, I guess my biggest issue is the people that support Joe Rogan after Joe Rogan's apologized are fighting harder than Joe Rogan is.
Oh, it's like my dislike for the Beehive and Beyonce. Like, you know what? Beyonce's great. I like her music a little less because I really dislike her fan base. Like, they're just annoying. That's Joe Rogan's fan base.
They're crazy.
Outside of him, they're the true definition of fanatics.
Yes.
And they go further than even the person that they are fanning over. And they're just a whole different level. And there's certain fan bases. Red Sox fans. I hate Cowboys fans.
Yankees fans.
No, Yankees fans are great. We're grounded.
No, y'all. Laker fans, Yankees fans, Cowboys fans.
Some would argue those are the same people.
They're a bunch
Not
of
like
American
all three.
team people. It's like
Yeah,
the worst. Anyway.
Definitely Cowboys fans are the worst. But Beyonce fans are up there. There's like certain crews of fans where I'm just like, yo, they're just annoying. Joe Budden podcast fans like got there for a quick second for me. Yeah, they're just it's an annoying thing. That's why I'm so glad we have the Corner Club. All you guys are cool.
Yeah, cool people out there.
Yes, we have a good fan base. Let's hit our break because we got to come back. We got to talk combat sports. We're gonna real quick go through the boxing that we didn't get to on Sunday.
Sorry.
And then talk about UFC 271, Israel Adesanya. And we have a guest as well. Derek Brunson knows a thing or two about fighting the style bender and maybe in line to fight him again. So it's going to be a great conversation. You guys don't go anywhere. Be right back after this. All right, everybody, we are back. Producer Cole, baby, in the booth. Late entrance to today's show. Listen, he's a busy man.
Came in like Brock Lesnar.
That's it. Look at this. He's so busy. He's like, I don't got to be there for their show anymore. He's big timing us now.
Yep.
Now, I saw him yesterday. He's posting video. They're doing cool games here. There's a magic trick at the desk or something. He's putting together stuff for everyone. So, yeah, and it's all right. Antoine's going to start making beats. He's going to leave us for the music world. Cole is already big timing us. It's all right, though. Remember the little guys when you're moving up the ladder. So it's time to talk boxing. Time to talk boxing we didn't get to it on Sunday. Dre, let's start off with Clarissa Shields. Well, first, happy birthday, Corey Erdman. First Rat Pack.
Yes.
Yes.
Corey. My group chat is down. I can't message anybody right now. Anyway.
It is his birthday. He's so wise for a man of my age. You know, he's a man of no hot takes. I'm a man of a million hot takes. We're exactly the same age.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy what he's done in like this little bit of time. I thought Corey's been around forever. He's just been around since he was like 22.
Yes.
So shout out to Corey. Happy birthday to you. I say this. He had a great article on Clarissa Shields after her win last weekend on Saturday in the UK. First fight in her deal with Boxer, which I'm happy about because Boxer has a deal with ESPN Plus. So now I get to watch all these fights and go to some of these fights and go to the UK. I still never been. So it gives me a reason to go over there a lot. So if you guys have tips and where to go or where to drink and I guess have a pint, that's what they do over there.
Oh, yeah.
You guys let me know. I am always down for travel tips. And now I get to go to the UK soon. Actually, I'll be there for Fury, Dillian White. So you guys let me know where to go in London. But with Clarissa, she goes over there, handles business, doesn't drop around. Are we at the point? Because this wasn't her toughest opponent, right?
Not at all.
This is just like whatever, clear out a mandatory because you still have all the other 3 belts, which you never stripped off, which is crazy. So, like, clear out a mandatory, get ready for Savannah Marshall, who we'll talk about here in a second. But she didn't get this opponent out of there. Are we to the point where we got to really start asking ourselves, like, does Clarissa not have power?
No. I mean, 2-minute rounds, 10 rounds. It's a lot.
Serrano gets people out of there.
Depending on who they are, right? Miriam Gutierrez, she didn't get out of there.
No.
Miriam Gutierrez got beat up.
Yeah.
Now, if you add another minute to those rounds, referee might stop it. Clarissa had Emma Kozin in trouble a lot in that fight.
Yeah.
If he had another minute, she's just not one of those fast starters. She doesn't have one-punch knockout power. Does it make her a bad? Floyd didn't either.
Yeah.
So it's like all this criticism that's been thrown at Clarissa Shields is almost mind-blowing to me. She 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 2-division undisputed champion, 2-division undisputed champion, 2-time Olympic gold medalist. And y'all not going to tell me she's the GOAT? People are going to say, well, Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. No.
And Amanda has 7 divisions.
Sure.
So that's impressive.
Very impressive. But what Clarissa is doing, because we're not just talking about her brief career where she's undisputed in 2 divisions and 12 fights. We're not just talking about that. We're talking about her being a 2-time Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
She's only lost 1 fight in her life, not even her pro career because she never lost. She lost to Savannah Marshall when she was 17 years old.
Yeah.
A loss that Savannah Marshall is hanging on to a decade later when Savannah hasn't beaten hardly anybody with a winning record.
Technically, Clarissa's now lost 2 fights in her life. One was in MMA.
Well, I'm not counting.
Counted that,
I'm
yeah.
not counting. I mean, and on top of that, she takes the Emma Kozin fight with 6 weeks of training and goes and does what she did.
Yeah.
And now she's like, well, Savannah's like, I'm going to beat you. If you have that performance, I'm going to beat you. I think people forget there's levels to this. And Clarissa's just another level above everyone else right now. She hasn't been challenged in a fight.
No, I mean, what she did to Hammer, and Hammer's a really good fighter.
Right.
Christy just made her look like she was a novice.
Dude, she beat Franchon Dezern Cruz, who was about to fight for an undisputed title, who she manhandled in that fight. I was there. It was the undercard of Ward and Kovalev.
Her second fight.
Right, and beat her handily.
Yeah.
And Dezern Cruz is now fighting for the undisputed title on the undercard of Taylor Serrano. Y'all gonna tell me that Clarissa Shields is not that good? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, her opponents' records and resumes are
They're undefeated.
top notch.
They come in here undefeated, 1 loss, undisputed, like title holders. It's not like she's fighting bums.
No.
Hannah Rankin, Christina Hamer, like you go down this list, they can't see her. She's in the spot now where it's like Serrano, Taylor, McCaskill they'd all have to move up to find Clarissa.
Well,
a lot
Clarissa
of weight.
said she'll move to 47.
I don't know
whoever
if-
wants to know.
If Clarissa makes 47, I mean, go
I
for it.
talked to her 2 weeks ago. Said she can make 47. She says like a lot of athletes, she's never had a nutritionist.
Right.
She's never done anything that. Due to this Boxer deal and it being on like ESPN Plus and stuff, she's now with Perfecting Athletes, who handle all the top rank fighters and weight cuts and nutrition, and they are amazing. So if she wanted to make 147,
I mean,
they
she can
can
do it.
get her to 147. I then asked her, like, yo, would you cut to 145 for MMA in the UFC? And she was like, yeah, I don't know about 145. So I guess 2 pounds makes a lot of a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's very concerned about losing her butt, I guess. She was like, nah, like, I can't get rid of this. I'll be a stick figure. I was like, all right, like, I get it. But, yeah, so she's willing to go down. I just don't know who's willing at 147 to take that challenge.
Maybe McCaskill.
McCaskill's way too small, though.
I mean, she'd be the one that would be like, because McCaskill fight everybody. That's the way that Justin McCaskill is. But, yeah, I mean, that's the problem. She's running out of opponents.
Cecilia would have been the perfect opponent.
Yeah, she would have dogged Cecilia, too.
I mean, Cecilia now, like, she was briefly retired. I think she's training again. That'd be a big money fight for her, like, if she moved up to 154 even to challenge.
It was funny because, McCaskill would be the one, like, I beat her twice.
Yeah.
There's fights to be made, but I'm just tired of people criticizing Clarissa Shields and saying that she's not good. She's not well, who's better? Who's got the resume that Clarissa has already?
People say Katie Taylor, and they say Katie would have had countless Olympic victories if the Olympics allowed women's boxing.
Let's stop. Katie Taylor had a hard time with Delphine Persoon. Twice.
Yeah.
Clarissa Shields has had a hard time with nobody.
That's the Terrence Crawford argument.
Yeah, it is.
She also has the resume.
Yeah, it's like, but she has all the belts in 2 divisions. Like, I need to see how Serrano and Taylor plays out. I do. I think that is an intriguing fight. But Katie Taylor doesn't get people out of there either.
No. She is.
Serrano is like the only one. Yeah, Serrano's really like the only one, and Senicia Estrada, who's got some power as well. But for the most part, like, women don't have
Savannah
time.
Marshall.
She fights bums. Like, if you look at Savannah's record,
she gets them out of there.
Yeah, they're bums. They're bums with, like, losing records. It's just, the fact remains, like, I keep saying this, Floyd didn't knock everybody out. Once he moved up in weight, he dominated. Did that make him not the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world? No. So we got to relax. Stop. Knockouts are not what makes the best fighters in the world. Tyson Fury was not a knockout artist. The reason why he's so great is because he's a phenomenal boxer with tremendous footwork. But he can knock you out, too, which he showed Deontay Wilder. Twice.
Yeah.
But before that, nobody ever considered Tyson Fury a knockout artist. He beat Klitschko he made it ugly with him.
Yeah, very boring.
You know, the Otto Valine fight, it was an ugly fight that he made. It was a tough fight, but he knows how to win by boxing.
Yep.
Deontay doesn't know how to do that. A lot of fighters don't know how to do that. Leave Clarissa alone. Stop it.
Yeah, no, again, no bad words for me. She's incredible in there, and she's one of the people who can do whatever she wants in there. Whatever style, whatever. Like, she can take the fight wherever she wants. So I'm interested to see her versus Savannah. Because, again, Savannah's going to come in with a lot of ammo. Savannah fights on March 12th. She has to take care of her mandatory. And then it's on. In June, like, I hope they run it back twice. Why not?
Unless Clarissa beats the hell out of her.
And it's also very possible. And then I don't know what Clarissa does after that.
I don't know either.
Maybe fights Zern Cruz again.
Maybe.
If she's undisputed, because that make her undisputed in 3 weight classes.
It's just absurd. She's just too good.
She cut weight before she can get that belt and become undisputed. So, yeah, if she just moves up again, there's one fight to become undisputed, and then undisputed in 3 weight classes. Like, just throw that's it.
Yeah.
Like Kenny Anderson, it's over. She is the greatest women's boxer of all time, arguably the greatest boxer of all time. You can remove the W in quote.
It's crazy.
Because that's insane. Also, we had, real quick, Chris Eubanks, Liam Williams. Eubank. See, I told myself I was going to do Chris Eubank versus Liam Williams. How good is Chris Eubank?
He's an opponent, right? Liam Williams is not that good.
People always feel bigger in the UK, though.
Yeah, no, he's got a strong following, but he's still an opponent. Like, he's very crude skill-wise. Liam Williams is not like Liam Williams is great. He got dominated by Demetrius Andrade.
Yeah.
So Chris Eubank knocks him down a few times. He's got a little bit of pop. It went how I expected it to go.
You see he's trained by your boy Roy now, and he's trying to.
Yeah.
He put a lot of the Roy moves in there.
Man, okay.
You see that?
I said this on Sean Porter's podcast the other day. It is funny when people get trained by certain fighters to try to adopt their skills but forget they don't have the talent to go along with it. So, like, Andre Berto tried to do the shoulder roll and got lit up by Robert Guerrero. Adrian Broner tried it. Like, Floyd could do that because he had the reflexes. You have to have a certain innate ability to do those things. I'm watching Eubank, and I'm like, you ain't got what Roy got. You're going to mess around and get beat up. doing that stuff. Like, you can do that to Liam Williams because he's kind of whack. But you move up in competition, like you fight a Charlo, or they're going to get you out of there.
Wants to fight him. Billy Joe Saunders said he'll fight him again. Like,
he'll beat him. Billy Joe Saunders will beat up Eubank.
Yeah, I think
Again.
so too.
So it's like, I don't know. Eubank, he's okay. I like his pops. His pops is the greatest boxing poet I've ever heard in my life. He's like smooth jazz when he's talking about anything. But I just, he's not that good. Big fight in the UK, who cares? He's an opponent. I don't see him being a world champion. No.
All right, and then we have next night, Thurman versus Barrios was the pay-per-view, or later that day, I guess.
Yeah.
So at night, Thurman versus Barrios, pay-per-view. Leo Santa Cruz coming back, weight at 128.6 for his fight at junior lightweight. So not far off from 126 again. And I thought he looked good.
Yeah, he looked like Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah, he can fight that style. I was telling someone ringside, I was just like, yo, he can fight that style at these lower weights and be fine. But he doesn't know how to adapt that style. So even at 130, he gets a firefight, but he gets hit a little bit too much at 130. At 135, he tried that against Tank, got sent to the gods. But at 126, it's a style that's pretty safe because no one's going to hit him like that.
No, he's a busy fight. Like, what I wanted to see was, all right, you got killed by Tank, and you got brought back to life. Now you're back and you're fighting again in a weight class that you should be in. And I just wanted to see him throw punches. That's all I really wanted to see. Like, people he didn't get him out of there. I didn't expect that. Keenan Carbajal was a guy, his only offense was like 3 headbutts in the fight.
Yep.
Other than that, he was just there to get hit. But what I wanted to see is, like, can Leo still overwhelm you with output? And he can. So at 26, that's what he'll do. And there aren't too many people, unless Inouye decided to move all the way up and was like, I'm going to kill you now. Then it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. But
I mean, Fulton's
not a big power puncher either.
No, he's a bunch of.
Yeah. Leo can deal with that. Like, when he fought Carl Frampton, he fought Abner Mares. Like, those aren't big, huge punches.
Is a good puncher for that division because he's big.
I'm just saying.
But I think he might be up to 130.
Tank was just another level of power.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So Leo doesn't have to worry about that guy. Like, as long as that guy's not there, Leo's going to be in some fights. I think he's clearly on the backside of his career. But I think he still has, he can still win titles. I think he's still being great fights. He still can be an exciting fighter. He's another guy who doesn't knock people out. He just kind of overwhelms you with volume. So it's going to take a guy like a Fulton to punch between those punches, make him pay. Yeah. Carl Frampton did that when they fought. It's tough, but he's still fun to watch. I just wish his opponent just had some offense instead of headbutts. That's it.
Yeah, it was very one-sided. And then, main event, Keith Thurman, Mario Barrios. I was surprised by Keith Thurman. Pleasantly surprised.
He looked good.
Looked very good for, 2.5 years out or something out of
931 days.
Insane. Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Out of the ring. He wasn't timid.
No.
Started fast, which isn't a trademark necessarily of Keith Thurman. Usually he shows well in the first round, kind of coast, and then wins it again in the back half of the fight.
Right.
No, he was on it this whole time. Mario Barrios is tough as hell. It's odd being a young gatekeeper, but he's just in that realm. He filled out well at 147.
Yeah.
It's just the skill difference was very different.
Yeah, I think the Keith one time thing, I need to hit you one time, that's gone. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah.
I think what Keith Thurman is now is boxing IQ. He's a very smart fighter. And I think it's a very underrated skill of Keith Thurman is that when he fights you, he knows how to win rounds. He knows how to get out of the way of punches. He understands range and distance. Keith Thurman's a really good fighter. I had a problem with this fight, though. There were 3 times in this fight where Keith Thurman had Mario Barrios hurt.
Yeah.
And he didn't put his foot on the gas.
Similar to when Tank had him hurt.
Yeah.
Tank did his little dance and then went and got him out of there.
Yeah. Keith, I think, had an opportunity to get Mario Barrios out of there. He said at the post-fight press conference that he was worried about his conditioning, which is absolutely fair. You haven't fought in almost 3 years since the Manny Pacquiao loss. And he didn't want to throw too much and gas himself out because I think what Keith has learned as he's gotten older is you can't knock everybody out. And if I expend too much energy, I'm going to be tired. My other concern with Keith Thurman is his body. He doesn't like getting hit to the body.
No.
At all. And even in this fight, like Barrios would catch him coming in a couple times. Barrios is not a big puncher. He's just moving up to 47. He filled out well, but he's never been known as a big puncher. He's never really had any competition. But Keith Thurman's in a spot where I'd like to see him get another fight. I know he wants the winner of Spence Ugas. I'd like to see him get another fight before he takes that fight. And it's a risky thing because maybe you shouldn't because it might mess up the money. You fight the wrong opponent, you lose. Yeah. That sucks. But I don't know where Keith is. I think Keith is like maybe 5th in the welterweight division because, there's a lot of people like Boots will blow him out. I don't know. I think it's a really good fight. I pick Boots to win. I don't think Boots will blow him out. Same with Virgil Ortiz.
I've never seen him fight anyone at that level of competition.
Right. Keith is really good.
Yes.
Keith was the king of the welterweight division at one point. He had the division in the palm of his hand, and the dumbest thing he did was say, I'm going to let the fight with Errol Spence marinate. Shut up, Keith. Should have never said that. I hated when he did that. But now you're in a position where you're chasing because now the winner of Ugas and Spence in April will have 3 titles, and Terrence Crawford will have the other one.
Yep.
What do? I think right now, the version that I saw Keith that fought Mario Barrios loses to Spence and loses to Thurman.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he loses those anyway, but I mean, I give him a chance.
Oh, I definitely give him a chance. I just think Terrence Crawford has too much dog in him. Like when Terrence Crawford hurts you, if Terrence Crawford hurt Keith to the body, there would be no backing off. He tried to terrorize him to that finish. I think Errol is his size and is the way that he uses his size and his reach. Because Errol has this beautiful ability of walking people into punches. And I think Keith would have a hard time with both of them. Because if he's worried about his cardio and conditioning, Terrence doesn't get tired. And Errol's going to put you on the back end of a jab. Those are all great fights.
But I think he has a better chance against Errol than he does Bud.
I think we'll see it. I think we'll know everything we need to know about that fight after Errol fights Ugas. Because Ugas is not an easy fight. I said the day that he stepped in for the Pacquiao fight, I was like, that's a bad fight. I said it
awkward from everyone.
I said it's a bad fight. From the first day that fight got made, I was like, I wouldn't have took that fight. Ugas is tough.
Yep.
But if Errol dominates Ugas, then I'll know everything I need to know. Because Errol's still a smart fighter. It's just between the accident, the layoff. Like he thoroughly dominated Danny Garcia. He treated Danny Garcia like a punk. Danny had a split decision with Keith.
Yeah.
And Errol hardly gave up rounds to Danny. Errol is that good, but I need to see how he looks against somebody who's crafty like Ugas. Because Thurman is not known as a knockout puncher anymore. He's a crafty fighter. Yeah. He's clever. So we'll see.
Who does he fight next? If you had to just call it out.
I don't know.
I think the only fight there is Crawford. I think
I don't
Crawford
know.
can't price himself out, but I think they do pay-per-view. Him, Crawford, the winner gets the winner of Spence, which is going to be tough, but you got to offer like step-aside money. Spence Ugas, because the mandatory challenger stepped aside already once for Spence to get this opportunity, or excuse me, for Ugas to get the opportunity, and then you got to pay him now again to step aside again.
It's tough. Oh my God, what is it? What's his name? Stenosis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
He's
might
the
be
co-main.
Yeah.
On the Spence card because he stepped aside. So like for any reason someone falls out, he's gonna be in an Ugas situation where he's like, yo, let's get it.
And that's a really good fight too. I think unless PBC just hates Keith Thurman, you don't pair him with Boots, right? It's just you don't do that. It's too soon for all that. Eventually you probably get to a Boots Stenosis fight, or Boots fights the loser of Spence and Ugas. I've seen people trying to pair them like that doesn't make any sense. It's just hard. It may just be somebody like to keep Keith warm and get rounds in. Because if it's not, Sean Porter was like, well, why does Keith have to wait? I was like, no, he doesn't have to wait
at all.
He can jump right into that fight. But I'm saying after looking at Keith and him talking about his conditioning, I don't know if I would want to throw Keith in there with Terrence Crawford. If I'm Keith's side. If I'm Terrence Crawford, I'm like, absolutely give me that fight now. Because I think I beat him any day of the week. I'd like to see Keith in another fight. Doesn't need it. But if they make that fight, fine. I don't even know where Keith is ranked in the WBO.
I have no clue. But I know Terrence just spent 2 years taking out mandatory. So he
needs a fight. He needs a name.
Terrence?
Yes.
Yeah, his mandatory now, if they didn't name it mandatory for Terrence. But number one is Boots.
Yeah, that fight happened.
Yeah, no. Or, excuse me, Boots is number 1 for Spence.
I thought it was Virgil Ortiz.
Virgil Ortiz is number 1
that ain't happening.
for Terrence.
Yeah, that's not.
So, but they haven't named him mandatory.
No.
He's just ranked number 1.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, yo, he cleared out 2 years worth of mandatories. The man's not going to get a mandatory again for a second.
Yeah.
So we'll see who goes next for Thurman, and he looked good though. So that's the biggest thing. Let's hit our break. Let's come back. Let's give our predictions for UFC 271 this weekend, and then chop it up with Derek Brunson, who's gonna call in. We'll ask him about his fight, his experience against Adesanya, whether he wants to fight him again. A lot of good combat sports still left to go. We're talking UFC after this. Don't go anywhere. All right, everybody, we are back. After this, actually in a little while, we're going to be joined by Derek Brunson. He's on this card. The guy's waiting for his title shot. The blonde Brunson.
Blonde popping.
He's just a different beast with the blonde hair, so we get to talk to him, see what he thinks about his fight, his opponent, Jared Cannonier, talk about who he has in the main event, Adesanya versus Whittaker. In the meantime, we're going to run through the card for this weekend.
Hold on, before we do that, I mean, for those watching, I got my Our Heroes Rock hoodie on. Yeah.
That's nice.
We just got them. These are they're shipping out, so anybody who was listening to this podcast who backed Our Heroes Rock will be getting a hoodie very, very soon. We're considering putting them up on a store. We just can't remember if we said it's a Kickstarter exclusive, so we don't want to upset Kickstarter. Hopefully, we could sell them on the store, so those of you that missed out, you can cop one of these. It's pretty dope.
I need a Cornell West bobblehead, like of the Cornell West bar here. Yeah, like just for the desk. Just a Cornell West to just chill.
Got John Lewis, Ruby Bridges, Lorraine Hansberry, Ida B. Wells, Cornell West, and Roy Wilkins. Yeah, Johnny designed this. Mia from Middle of Beyond, if anybody saw that Ghostbusters hoodie that Ed wore, that's the company that did our hoodies for us. So, yeah, I just had to mention that because I'm wearing it, and I got to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it. It's something that we created. It's dope.
Yeah, very dope. It's great to see this process go from the beginning to now and then to where it's going to be even a year from now.
We shall see. So let's talk about UFC 271.
UFC 271. I mean, the undercard is prelims are okay. Like nothing really to cover that crazy on the prelims. Andrei Arlovsky is in the main prelim versus Jared Vendetta.
Dude, they keep playing.
43 years old.
They keep playing. His fool keeps winning. I told you at some point they're going to like, all right, well, I guess you're going to fight Derek Lewis now. And it's like, then he dies. But
my man is,
he's
counting him up.
No, he's going to win again.
Yeah, he's 4 for his last 5.
Andrei Arlovsky is still here. It's crazy. Other people like GSP have retired, been long gone.
43 years old.
Arlovsky's still here. Daniel Cormier is retired. Long gone. Tim Sylvia's retired. Long gone.
This man gonna fight till you my mama age.
Yeah.
My mama, I think, is like 50 right now.
Just book him and Fedor one more time.
I'm with it.
Because the last time they fought.
I would love to see Fedor in the UFC for one more fight.
Yeah. I mean, the last time they fought at Affliction, Fedor just punched Arlovsky when he came flying in.
Yeah.
And he froze him in midair.
Can we get Fedor in the UFC? I got to ask that to Dana. That's going to be my question to Dana.
Good, yeah. I mean, come on, man. At some point, it's still
Why
Fedor.
not? Like,
Get
why
him
not?
his flowers, man. Even if he gets washed, who cares? That should make you happier.
I have to see Greg Hardy every 3 months on your card. Like, Fedor is better than Greg Hardy right now.
Yes.
Hands down. Like, so if Fedor, like, give me a Fedor fight or two. Just the old man's division.
Yeah.
I'm with it. So, I mean, I'm taking Arlovsky. Just because, I need old men to win around here.
Roxanne Modafferi is on the prelims, right? It's her final fight of her career.
Oh, yeah, she's retiring.
What a unique
Casey O'Neill.
I mean, props to Roxanne Modafferi, man.
One of the nicest people.
Yeah, she's been
in general.
She's been in MMA for what feels like forever, and she never became champion, but I'm sure the UFC will eventually put her in the Hall of Fame. She's fought a bunch of people. She's won some, she's lost some, but she's one of the most unique talents and characters that MMA has had.
And I can't wait to see what she does for the weigh-ins. It's always something
it'll be
anime related. So it's
her
great.
and Angie Hill have like the best weigh-ins.
Oh yeah.
They always something anime gaming related. And I fully expect that with Roxanne.
I love it. Roxanne actually coaches out here in Vegas.
Yep.
So that's really cool. Really just all in on MMA. So again, all around good person. mean, Casey O'Neal's undefeated. She's 24
I mean,
years old.
yeah, we
Like,
know
it's
what
going
we're
to be a tough fight.
Got to put her over.
But I'm picking Roxanne anyway, just because it's a retirement fight.
Yeah,
Why not? I'm here for the weird stuff.
I'm booking this like pro wrestling. Mother Fair's got to go out on her back.
Okay. Cold-blooded. All right. Pull your Vince McMahon. First fight of the pay-per-view card, Bobby Green versus Nasrat. I never pronounced Nasrat's last name.
Yo, Bobby Green.
And I have a pronunciation guide from ESPN now. I still can't pronounce it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Bobby Green has looked pretty good in his last few fights with his striking. I don't think he's going to win this fight.
No, I don't know what Bobby Green is.
I mean, it feels like he's hitting a stride late in his career where he's kind of his striking, he's kind of put it all together in terms of being fluid. The Fizzy fight, like he looked great in that fight. I'm not going to say he is what he is because I think he has a chance of knocking people off. He's always had that potential there. I don't think he wins here, but I think it's going to be a fun and entertaining fight. Possibly could even be fight of the night.
I can see that. Like, I mean,
But he loses.
It's always going to be exciting. Yeah, he loses.
Yeah.
But, kudos to him for being around for so long, always entertaining. He wins just enough to stay in the UFC, and, like, that's not easy.
Hey, Smiling Sam Alvey has lost, 7 fights in a row, and he's still here?
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, man.
Yeah, that's rough for Alvey.
Yeah.
I mean,
he still got a job, I guess, so that's not bad.
yeah. But he was, like, at that point where he's fighting every 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, that was a cool gimmick. And then now, like.
Just lose.
Yeah,
just
he's
lose,
just
baby.
losing every 2 months. So that's going to be rough. Next fight, Kyler Phillips versus Marcel Rojo. Marcelo.
I'm picking Kyler Phillips. I can't even remember what the line is on this. It's not disrespectful. But I'm picking Kyler Phillips by decision. Rojo's a good fighter. It's just.
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly. Like, I'd rather Arlovsky be in this position. But I understand you need, like, some name value on the prelims.
Yeah, you got to have people watch those prelims.
Yeah, so this is just kind of an odd main card fight. But, all right. Next up is where it really starts getting good. Jared Cannonier versus Derek Brunson. We're going to have on the show. Cannonier's been so many different weight classes.
Yeah.
He's just a big dude, strong. But when he faces the top of the top, Robert Whittaker, Style Bennett, like, he's just not that level. And I think Derek Brunson has stepped up, maybe not to their level, but he's probably above Cannonier at this point. Like, he figured something out recently. So I'm actually going to take Derek Brunson. And our streak is going to start again.
Yeah, we got to pick it back up.
Yes.
K. Hansen messed us up.
Yeah, damn K. Hansen.
But Derek Brunson hasn't lost since he lost to Adesanya. And since he lost to Adesanya, they keep putting young fighters in front of him, and he keeps knocking them off. Or young potential title holders in front of him. Like, they put Darren Till there because they was like, oh, Darren Till and Israel Adesanya is a fight to make it at some point, even though Whittaker had already knocked off Darren Till. But it's like, Edmund Shabazian, who they was like, he's the future of the division, and he kind of washed him up.
He was our number one prospect on ESPN at the time.
Yeah. He's on the Aaron Pico, man. He's got to go back, figure it out, and come back stronger.
Yep.
Like, young fighters don't necessarily fare well in the UFC unless your name's John Jones, who was champion at 21. But, yeah, I think Derek Brunson is just going to have a little bit too much. He's more well-rounded than Cannonier. I also wonder if Cannonier is taking this fight because he's broke. Because if you remember the last time that Cannonier fought, in the post-fight, they were like, when are you going to fight? He was like, I hope soon because I'm broke. So I don't know what's going on there. And I was like, that sucks.
Hopefully there's a follow-up on that during this media.
Well, he told that to Rogan. So, if Rogan's in the octagon, he gets to tell him again if he wins. But I think Derek Brunson, his grappling is too good. He's got good cardio. He's learned a lot from the Adesanya fight. And I know he wants that title opportunity. And I think even if Cannonier were to win, it's hard to see him getting a title shot. So I'm going Derek Brunson. I would say decision, but I think there's a possibility that he submits him at some point.
You're stealing my predictions. Derek Brunson by submission. I just think he's really slick on the ground. It's been a second since, because he's been like ground and pounding people on the ground. But I think he slips in a nice choke or something on the ground and takes this home with a submission. It's only 3 rounds, though, which is kind of weird, too. Both these guys have been main eventing at least fight nights and everything. It's been 5-round fights. So predicting a stoppage here, I'm like, man, those extra 2 rounds really would make me feel more comfortable. But give me Brunson by submission. Man, I'm not going to lie to you. The fight I'm looking forward to most on this card, Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa.
Big, meaty men slapping meat.
That's what I'm here for.
There's a lot of meat slapping in this fight.
That's it. I can't pick this, man. I hope no one. I'm hoping for a double knockout, simultaneous, and it goes in the book however it is, and then they wake up and they share a shoey.
I don't even like. Either we're getting a shoey or we're getting some ridiculous post-fight interview from Derek Lewis.
His ball's hot.
Yeah.
But he's at home. You don't even know what he's gonna say at home.
Dog, he gonna come out to wanna be a baller, and that crowd's gonna explode.
Crazy.
Now, this is a fight where I think Tuivasa is a little more skilled than Derek Lewis, but Derek Lewis clearly has more power than Tuivasa.
Yeah.
And if you look at these two guys and the way Tuivasa fights, this could be fight of the night because these two could just slug it out.
It ain't going to the judges.
Nah, not unless I don't think Tuivasa is interested in taking him down.
No. And he gets hit a lot.
Yeah, and I don't think Derek Lewis he wants to stand and bang. I'm gonna pick Derek Lewis by knockout.
That's a good pick.
But if Derek Lewis knocks him out, I hope he does a shoey.
Somebody got to.
He ain't gonna. Derek Lewis ain't gonna do a shoey. He'll talk shit about the shoey. I ain't gonna
he's not gonna
shoey. My feet been in here. My feet hot. Like he'll say something crazy. But I think this fight. I mean, come on, man. This is a fan favorite fight right here. If you're a fan of MMA and you want to see big, meaty, not like muscle. This isn't Ngannou and Cyril Gane.
Nope.
This is two chubsters getting it on, and there ain't nothing wrong with that because they can fight.
Nothing
I'm
wrong
here for
with
it.
it at all.
Yeah.
I love this matchup. There's no losers in this either.
Nah.
Somebody gonna get knocked out,
Somebody gonna get knocked out.
but they gonna come back and mollywop someone else in the division. So it's all good. These are two men who are just crazy because you're coming into this and no one's seeing the judge. Like you know it.
No, just
So it's
go
just
home.
like, what are we gonna do? Go grab a pretzel. Go figure out some food and come back for the Israel fight. So that's I have no pick. Violence is my pick in that one.
Violence.
And then main event, middleweight championship on the line. Rematch, Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. Bobby Knuckles. Did Whittaker learn enough from that first fight? Are there adjustments? Can he take something from Izzy's loss when he moved up?
Well, the one thing he'll take is patience.
Yep.
I think a lot of people look at Adesanya and they go, he's skinny. I can just kind of wipe him out with striking. Then you realize, he's really good at striking. Even Jan Blachowicz was like, I got to take him down.
Yeah, I'm done with this.
I have the power advantage. I'm the bigger fighter, but I don't want to deal with it because it's like fighting a wood chipper. It's like you trying to figure out, it's like double Dutch fighting. You got to get in and out because if he catches you because he's long, and he's deceptively great at closing range really quick. Ask Paulo Costa. I don't know if Robert Whittaker can necessarily do anything different. There's an interesting stat. People were like, well, Whittaker could use his wrestling. Well, I've looked at his UFC career. I think he has 12 takedowns in his UFC career total, and 4 of them were against Kelvin Gastelum.
Ugh.
You know how many takedowns Israel Adesanya has? 0. He has never taken down a fighter. He don't even try it.
For what?
So if you're Robert Whittaker, if you worked on wrestling your whole camp, it might be your best path to victory. Because if you're not wrestling him, and you look at what happened in the Blachowicz fight, you have to know that putting Izzy on his back is the only way you're going to get rounds. Yeah. You're not going to win a striking match with this guy. It's just not going to happen. And Bobby Knuckles is really good. But I said it when they fought the first time. I was like, it's fluidity. Adesanya moves just different.
Yeah.
And obviously losing to Blachowicz, but then you look at what he did to Marvin Vettori. You look at what he's done.
Should have been able to wrestle him.
Right. And he couldn't. And Vettori's a better wrestler than Robert Whittaker.
Way better. Bigger guy than Robert, but
I think Whittaker will be a lot more patient, and all that will lead to is a loss by unanimous decision.
That's fair.
He'll have to, if Whittaker makes a mistake, Adesanya knocks him out. But I think the knockout is going to be in the back of Whittaker's mind. He's going to know, I'm going to be patient. And I think about 7 minutes into the fight, he's like, I'm screwed. Because I can't get close to him.
Yeah.
He has to try to take him down. It's his only path to victory. And I think he tries to take him down in second or third round. But if Adesanya stuffs his first takedown and his second, is demoralizing.
Yeah, give me Adesanya by knockout.
I can see it.
I just think as much as other people get a game plan on Adesanya after a first fight and they make adjustments and everything, he just digests information differently. So now he's coming into a fight where he has more info on you, and then that's problematic. So I expect, I don't know, Whittaker's good, but give me a first-round knockout by Adesanya.
Damn. Wow. That would mean Whittaker have to take a chance. So here's the thing. You might be right.
He walks into something.
Whittaker stays in the pocket for a long time. If you go back and watch any of his fights, even if you watch the recent fights, Darren Till, Kelvin Gastelum, he plants his feet and throws, right?
Yep.
He doesn't really get out of the way. Plants his feet, throws. If you go for a takedown, he's great at sprawling. He fought Romero. Romero's a one-punch guy. He fought Kelvin Gastelum, who was pretty much washed up after Adesanya beat the crap out of him. Fought Darren Till, who was what it was. Jared Kennedy is like, all right, these guys are very robotic, right,
Yeah.
when they come in. But if you stay in the pocket and throw a punch and you don't figure out how to get out of there, you're catching something. Because what Adesanya does better than anybody else in MMA at this current point in time is he can find you if you don't get out of there. And even if you do get out of there, if you don't skillfully pull back, he's gonna find you.
Yep.
So like if your head, like if you go in and throw a couple punches, you try to duck, Adesanya knows where you are. Because Adesanya watches enough tape to know, all right, he has a tendency to duck his head to the left. Mm-hmm. Like, go watch the Paulo Costa fight. He got a read on where Paulo was going to be all the time. If I feint, like those feints mean the world.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, I'm triggering you to do this. And most fighters aren't smart enough to know that I'm doing the same thing when he's feinting. Maybe I should try something different.
Yeah. No, in that mode, you're just trying to survive, too.
Yeah, you're just like, I don't want a piece of that.
Your natural instinct is just going to take over. You're going to keep doing the same thing, and the next you know, it's a wrap. But Paulo Costa, a guy who comes forward all the time, tried to be patient, give Izzy distance, and got picked apart.
He got picked apart with leg kicks.
Yeah, from the distance. And he's like, damn, what can I do? Like, I have the right game plan. I can't rush the guy because I'm going to be slept.
Then he got slept.
And then he got slept anyway. So it's tough, man. It's a tough puzzle to solve.
You know what's funny? And before we leave, is like people have talked about Adesanya being the greatest middleweight ever. And I'm like, do y'all watch MMA? Because there was a guy named Anderson Silva who beat everybody.
Yeah. Adesanya hasn't had a Chael Sonnen fight where you got to throw up a triangle in the last round.
I mean, he lost to Blachowicz. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean, they both.
Like,
it's like
Adesanya's second all time in wins in the middleweight division. Winning streak to Anderson Silva. But he's only halfway there, right?
That dominance was different.
Like, if you didn't watch Anderson Silva in the 2000s and beyond, if you didn't watch him in Pride, if you didn't watch, I don't know what's wrong with some of you people when you say like, oh yeah, he's better than Anderson. Like, Anderson was just a completely different monster of a fighter. Like, when we talk about fluidity, he was the king of that.
Yeah.
Like, look, man, Forrest Griffin was never a great fighter, but when you knock somebody out with a fadeaway jab, it's disrespectful. He's just flat out disrespectful. You look when he kicked Stephen Bonner's guts into like the second row.
Front kick Belfort.
Like, yo, Dan Henderson was a monster. Subbed him. That's the part of Adesanya's game that's going to prevent him from being Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva has a good ground game.
Great ground game.
Like, yeah, he could strike with the best of them. You know, yeah, he eventually ran into the wrong person with Chris Roy. I mean, he played too much.
Yeah.
That's all I ever say about Anderson.
The Roy Jones syndrome.
Yeah,
you still try to do that, but your reflexes dip just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You can't pull your head back in time. But he played too much. But Adesanya is still the greatest middleweight and arguably one of the greatest fighters we've ever, not even arguably, he's definitely one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen. We never got the GSP fight to prove if he's like top two. But I need people to relax. Adesanya is great, but let the kid, not even a kid, he's an adult. He's a grown man. He looks young, but he's in his 30s.
32.
Yeah, but let the man breathe. Like, if he beats Whittaker, it doesn't really get him any closer. He has to break Anderson Silva's record for me to start having this conversation. He ain't there yet. The problem is who in the middleweight division can beat Israel Adesanya. I don't know who it is.
It's gonna be tough. I mean, he's beatable.
Yeah, he's beatable.
That.
Yeah, if you could wrestle him and keep him down, you can beat him. Yeah. I don't know if anybody can strike with him, unless you're we saw what he did with Paulo Costa.
Yeah, if he tries to go back up, say theoretically, he had to fight like Yuri as champ.
Oh my God!
I mean, that's
violence.
That's a technical masterpiece that I would love to see.
He's a violent man.
Yeah, Yuri versus Adesanya is a mind-blowing fight. So, like, Yuri could beat him. But again, you got to have, like, some different measurables, to kind of beat him. I'm not sure you get it at that weight class. But Adesanya is crazy enough to keep daring to be great.
He'll do it again.
Yeah, like, he'll run through 4 more people, and if Yuri's up there, he'll be like,
Well, I
If
mean,
I lose.
let's just say Glover beats Yuri. Adesanya's like,
Oh, you got to go against old man Glover
yeah, it's like maybe I'd take that fight.
in Brazil.
Yeah, if Yuri wins, then it's like maybe I'll chill.
Yeah,
Because Yuri's nuts. Like if anybody watched him in Glory, it's like, oh my God, this guy's a monster.
but it's a kickboxing masterpiece.
Oh yes, it could
if
be
those two fight.
Yeah, it'll be a beautifully violent ballet. Like it'll be excellent. But if Yuri beats Glover, and especially if he just destroys Glover, and I'm Izzy, I'm like, I'll just defend this title.
That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, I'll just you know what? I'm gonna try to break Anderson's record.
Yeah, I think that's his next goal. Just most title defenses ever in middleweight history. Just put that as far out as you possibly can. But he did an interview with Brett, and he said something really cool. He's like, "Yeah, I failed at my side mission. No, I just came back. Like everything in his head is like video games and anime. He's like, yeah, I went to that side mission, I failed the side mission, came back, and I'm right back rolling. So like he just doesn't even take that loss. Like it didn't affect him at all. He's like, cool, I tried, came back. Like it's not the main game, so who cares?
Yeah, he's still the middleweight champ. He's still undefeated at middleweight. He's still been dominant at middleweight. He's the best in the world at that division right now. He dared to be great, came up short. Big deal.
Yeah, wild. So can't wait to see how this all plays out. We're actually going to take one more quick break. Come back. Everyone stay tuned. Derek Brunson is going to join us. We got to see what he thinks Izzy, what he thinks of maybe Robert Whittaker pulling an upset. We got to talk to him about his own fight. That's going to be fun. Tons of UFC on this show. So thanks, everyone. It's a long one, but stay tuned. A lot more great UFC talk to come after this. All right, everybody. As promised, we are joined by one of the UFC's best fighters, Derek Brunson, ahead of UFC 271. Again, you know what? And he's one of the most slept-on fighters in the UFC. This guy keeps knocking out the next wave of amazing fighters the UFC keeps putting in front of him. Derek, when are they going to learn? When are they going to learn you're not a gatekeeper? When are they going to put some respect on your name?
Hey, it don't matter. As long as they keep putting dollars in my pocket, it's all good.
Yeah, I hear that, but I mean it's true though, because ever since you haven't lost since you fought Adesanya, and you've been going on a tear where every performance has looked better than the last. But it seems like every time it feels like, oh well, let's put the hot guy Edmund Shabazian, we'll put him in there, and you knock him off. And it's like, oh well, Darren Till, we've always talked about him being a champion, you knock him off. And I think the question is true. It's like after this fight at 271, it feels like title shot or nothing, right?
Oh, 100%. That's been the whole path. That's what we were setting up. When they took a long time to book the fight between Izzy and Whittaker, I knew that I had to fight one more time, and Kennedy was the guy right there. So I knew this fight was going to come to fruition before. So yeah, we was ready for it, and yeah, one more fight, and we back in that title fight, or we in that title fight.
You mentioned you talk about Izzy Whittaker main event. You fought Israel Adesanya before. What was it like being in the ring with him? Were you shocked by anything when you were standing across from him that maybe you didn't prepare for, or just that he did differently than what you prepared for?
I was doing my own training camps back at home at my gym, and I didn't have the bodies to get me ready for a guy like Izzy. Obviously, he's a dynamic striker, so you need a lot of strikers to give you good looks to prepare for that fight. So I didn't have the proper preparation. I kind of, didn't take him as seriously as I should have. And yeah, it didn't go my way. So, I made the switch, went out to Sanford MMA where, we got a whole gang of strikers, a lot of talented top fighters. So, I've been on a 5-fight winning streak since.
When that happens, like there's some guys who say, when you lose, you go, just made some mistakes that night. It wasn't my night. There's other guys say, this loss requires changes, right, for the better. Because let's just say you had beat Adesanya that night. Do you feel like you could have continued on that path and been a champion, or you feel like it was inevitable that at some point you're going to have to not kind of train yourself, you're going to have to get into a gym?
Right, yeah. I was training at Jackson's MMA for like the first 5 years of my career. Then I opened a gym and tried to train there for like 2 years. But yeah, that wouldn't be conducive to like being ready for these top fights, competing in the top 5, top 10 of the UFC year after year. So yeah, I definitely had to make that change. So yeah, And at that point, Izzy was a up and coming guy. I think he was ranked like 9, and I was ranked 6 or something like that. So yeah, be top 5 would have required me to get out to a big camp, anyways.
When you make a switch like that, when you make a switch between camps, what's the mindset of getting out of your comfort zone, right? Because you go from training closer to home, you have to now move, uproot your whole camp. What was your mindset going into that? And really, how did it lead to this 5-fight winning streak that you're on? Like, when did you notice, like, man, I'm different? Or, yo, I'm getting better because I made this change. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, everybody always want the comfortable situation where they're at home with their friends, their family. Everything's perfect for them. But in sports, man, you got to sacrifice. You got to have the proper preparation, especially when you put yourself out there getting ready for these top fights or whatever sport you're doing at the highest level. So yeah, it became to a point to where it was like, I'm not getting enough. So I got to really, venture out and get the proper training. Might have to sacrifice some time with the family, with the friends, but ultimately it'll pay off, when I compete.
Before we talk about this particular fight, I'm curious, like, do you stick around and watch main events after your fight, or when you're done fighting, do you just go home? Or you just pack it up and head back to the hotel?
Well, so my last 3 fights, I'm in the main event.
Right.
So I have no choice but to, watch the last fight. But no, when I'm fighting, yeah, I watch. It's 2 more fights left after me. I'll watch the remaining fights.
So you're going to stick around and see how Whittaker and Adesanya plays out, because assuming you win, you want to kind of get a good look at your opponent.
Oh, yeah, I might jump in the cage. You never know. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm definitely going to be there, tune in, and see how that fight go.
So we're creeping up towards the end of fight weeks, but we've seen crazier things happen in the UFC for any reason. If someone can't make weight on the scales, something happens, someone is not in this main event, you taking that spot, right? You're jumping in on short notice.
Oh, yeah, that's why they brought me here. I was supposed to fight January the 22nd. They brought me here for backup, When the military calling backup, you guys know what time it is. So, yeah, I mean, that's why we on the same card as a title fight. Somebody go down, Brunson stepping up, and I'm taking what's mine.
All right, I got another question before we talk about the fight, because we talked about it before we started rolling. The blonde hair, man, what was the inspiration? Why did you decide, you know what, I'm going to go blonde? Because now it seems like, like Superman has an S on his chest. It feels like the blonde hair is now your S because you're running through opponents left and right. What was behind all that?
Yeah, man, it was during COVID time. And everybody was going stir crazy in the house. So, this was the natural progression, It's like about to do something different, bring it all out. So, the blonde Brunson came about.
Blonde Brunson.
Listen,
sounds
man.
like a superhero, bro.
Yo, he's gone full Super Saiyan. That's what it was. Like, he just got straight on his Goku, hit the blonde hair. He's unbeatable now. Looking at your opponent this weekend, Jared Cannonier, everyone talks about his power, right? Like, just that one punch, knockout power. He's such a big dude. But you fought some of the toughest fighters, people with power before. How do you go in there and try to negate that and make sure that you impose your will on the fight while also navigating such a guy that, any second it can be done if you make a mistake?
Yeah, that's the name of the game for most fighters. Everybody, has decent power, if not a lot of power. So everybody's trying to knock each other out, trying to finish each other. So that's what we train to stay focused, minimize damage, minimize mistakes, and be ready for these big fights. I know where he's good at. I know how he's going to try to come out. So my job is to be on point with what I want to do and control the fight and dominate.
You've talked a little trash in your fights before. I mean, you talked before the Adesanya fight. You had to deal with Kevin Holland's mouth for the entire duration of that deal. Is it something that you just kind of accustomed to do now? It's like, if you're in the cage, do you have some words with your opponent while it's happening, or is it like just shut up and fight?
No, it's whatever. Everybody bring a little something different to the table. Holland's like to talk a lot of trash, but he never went over the top, talking about moms or kids and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with whatever. At the end of the day, we have to fight each other. So if that's somebody's personality, it is what it is.
Where do you see like that you have a clear advantage over Cannonier in this fight?
Clear advantage would be the grappling. I believe, strength, speed. I feel like I have him edged in a lot of categories. Fight IQ. So yeah, he's gonna come out looking to get the action going early with the hands. But I feel I have the tools to deal with him in every area.
That's what I was about to basically fight IQ, because when you fought Darren Till, when you fought Holland, it wasn't that you just like out grappled the opponent. You seemed like you just outsmarted them as well. So is that something that came with you after the Adesanya fight, where it's like, all right, you pull back, you know you're talented, you know you're athletic, but when you use your brain in the octagon and when you're doing things that you know you're making adjustments on the fly, like when you dealt with Kevin Holland, like, I'm gonna put this fool on his back, he can't do nothing with it, or with Shabazz, with Darren Till. Is it really now just truly a mental game for you because the athletic tools are already there?
Oh yeah, for sure. In sports, man, you got to be a thinker. You got to articulate what you're trying to do out here. You got to be playing chess pretty much. You can't be out here playing checkers. So, yeah, when I come out here and fight, I definitely want to be the better, have the smarter fight IQ, and be able to make adjustments on the fly.
So we need your official prediction. 1, for your fight. How do you finish this? And then 2, for the main event. Who do you have winning, and who's going to be your next opponent after you handle business on Saturday?
Oh man, it all depends how Cannonier come out. If he come out reckless in the first round, he can catch one on the chin in the first round. On the feet, he can find himself on his back, getting elbowed out, in the first round. It's going to be. I'm going to be looking to finish the fight every round. But, if he present me opportunities where I can finish it sooner, I'm taking it. And for the main event, man, I don't know, man. It should be a good fight. I think Whittaker will be able to make adjustments. He probably will not be so aggressive. And Izzy is a counter fighter. So it's going to be a matter if Izzy wants to really lead the dance and with the strikes, or if he's going to wait for Whittaker to come so he can counter. So, whoever, it doesn't matter. I look forward to facing them for the title next.
Are you at all concerned that if Whittaker wins, they try to run it back instead of giving you the title shot?
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about handling my business, watching them beat each other up, and I'm getting the next person.
The shirt, man. I don't think we can see the full shirt. I know what it says. All right. Now that people see it, I beat up domestic abusers, I need to know why and why you decided to. I mean, you're wearing the shirt on the show, but what was behind this shirt?
Yeah, no, me and my team sat down and we started talking about some of the things that I was against or some of the things that I stand up for, and that was one of them. We speak out and stand up against domestic abuse. If somebody feel uncomfortable because they see my shirt, that's the whole point. I want to make people feel uncomfortable. Don't do silly things. Don't do things you shouldn't do. Just be a good person.
Listen, I need one of those shirts.
Right.
Like I feel like we're starting a trend. I will wear one of those shirts too. Man, we appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time out during a busy fight week. Thank you so much. Good luck on Saturday. And then we look forward to you in the championship picture, man. It's going to be fun. Keep that blonde hair.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Thanks.
All right. Take it easy, brother.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks, everyone, for listening as well. It's been an incredible show, packed full of combat sports, starting with Joe Rogan all the way through UFC 271. In the meantime, before we get out of here, you know how we close this. Follow us on social media at Corner Podcast _ on Twitter, at Corner Club for Life on Instagram, at Corner Podcast on TikTok, at the Corner Podcast on YouTube. Oh, we're everywhere now, baby. Everywhere you can find us. We appreciate everyone here at Blue Wire Studios, everyone in the booth, even though producer Cole, baby, was late. None against you, Cole. None but love from us in here. Hardest working man in the building. Thank you to Wynn Resorts here in Las Vegas for housing us and housing the studio, which always looks incredible. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you know the vibe. So it's great. You guys stay safe out there. Watch this amazing weekend of fights that are coming up. Next week, talking MMA, boxing. I was just on the phone during this episode. The Canelo news broke that Canelo is going to sign a 2-fight deal. We'll talk about that on our next boxing show. So much going on, so we appreciate all of you. But until next time, we're out.
Peace.
On the corner.